What's going on, everybody? Today for you, I got a new segment on my channel called the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. And yeah, I know, not the most original name, but basically I'll be going through the comics I picked up this week, kind of giving you what I thought of them and which of those are actually worth picking up. And this week is a pretty big week in comics. We have the first issues of the solo Rebirth comics with Superman, Green Lantern, and we have Green Arrow and Batman. And on the other end, on Marvel end, we have the first issue of the Second Civil War. So with that getting started, let's get into it. It's Baja Irish Rico. So let's start off with the Second Civil War, issue 1. And right off the bat, you see the cover is Iron Man and Captain Marvel butting heads. And you know Iron Man has just been triggered by something else, and he's about to start another war. And yeah, this one might be kind of hopping off the hype train of the movie that just came out. But saying that is not giving justice to the story, because I have to admit, this story actually seems like it has a lot of potential. So if you don't know the background of this, basically a new Inhuman was found that has the power to see the future. And basically we have Iron Man on one side saying like, hey, this is cool and everything, but we have to be careful. We're not sure how accurate this is. This could be some That's So Raven, like, kind of stuff. Or we have Captain Marvel saying like, hey, this has potential to save so many lives. And the fact that it's worked once, we have to pretty much use it as much as possible to save any lives possible. Because the story starts off with a big climactic battle that could be terribly catastrophic, but because the Inhuman had seen the future, they're able to get all the Marvel heroes together and basically help out the situation. That being said, I see this has a little more of a argument on Iron Man's side, where he seems a lot more of the reasonable one, and even though he's being cocky about it, he does have a better point than Miss Marvel does. And that being said, it moves on. The story, not going to spoil anything, but towards the end and middle-ish towards end, it has a really big twist in here, and it really sets up a great build and tension within the storyline. And I see this storyline, even though it's kind of a Minority Report-esque kind of like ripoff, this has a lot of potential to grow into a really cool storyline. And then this is just part 1 of 6. And the only complaints I have to say about this issue is that, just like the first Civil War, it kind of feels like people are getting really aggressive really quickly, like they're all nice and stuff, and then they just go 0 to 100 like really quick, and they're all just like butting heads and getting ready to fight, which is just kind of like, it's a little much at times, and you can kind of see it on maybe more of Iron Man's side, but I would definitely say pick up this issue. It's a little expensive at $5.99, but if you're into Civil War, if you just want to see more of that Marvel Universe clashing, then definitely pick this one up. On the Rebirth line, we have the first one, Superman. So I have to be honest with this one, it's pretty disappointing, and mostly that the story is anticlimactic and nothing really happens. It starts off with, spoilers, New 52, Superman dying, and we see old Superman, the Superman we know prior to New 52, the real Superman. We see him basically there in the final battle and helping defeat the enemy at the end, and basically he goes down and watches and looks over the grave of where New 52 Superman is laid, and he runs into Lena Lang, and that's pretty much everything that happens in the story. Most of this is just a reflection of the old Superman, kind of reflecting him being back here and everything that's happened, him and the events that happened throughout this time, and reflecting on his children and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, okay, like I guess it's a necessary issue, and it kind of makes sense because the first issue and they need to do some setup and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm not saying this is a must buy. You could probably read a half of paragraph summary on it and get everything you needed to. But this is just kind of setting up a really slow kind of like, this is going to be more of a personal and kind of like a mental kind of story from Superman's side. So not too excited about the next issue, but we'll see how it comes down. Next, we get into the first issue of Green Lantern. And this one, I have to admit, unlike Superman, is actually really good. We get the introduction of 2 new Green Lanterns from Earth, as you can see on the cover. So you have the male one over here, and you have the female one over here. And you basically just see them kind of on Earth doing their own thing, and they're already Green Lanterns. You don't really see their origin per se or who they took over, but they're shown here, and then basically they're both called into action. And these 2 Green Lanterns are still pretty novice and haven't learned or met each other yet. And they basically meet with each other, they clash a little bit, they have to, fight an enemy, and that's kind of where things begin. And even though not too much happens in the story, we get introduced to these two new Lanterns who, while we don't know too much about them, we see they have really strong personalities and they have great character designs, I have to admit. You see on the cover, the female one has like a really cool eye design with the Green Lantern logo and then the mask on the man. But yeah, this one just has a lot of potential to move forward. As it kind of ends, not spoiling anything, but we see that they're basically going to have to learn to become, more professional, more masterful Green Lanterns while working together and working on a team and stuff like that. And their personalities just clash a lot. But I think this could be a really fun story, and seeing them grow and develop, this might be, something to look forward to. So if you're not even into Green Lantern comics usually, I think you should definitely pick this one up at least, and maybe start off, Rebirth, following the Green Lantern story. And on top of that, we have a bigger scale of what's to come next and some of the enemies that are to come. And it really kind of gives a perspective that this one has a lot of, foresight and has a lot of cool things that are come about. So definitely pick Green Lantern Rebirth issue 1 up. Next, we have Batman Rebirth 1. And this one's kind of between Superman and Green Lantern, that it's not bad, but it's not great either. This one starts off with Bruce Wayne basically taking on the Calendar Man, and we see kind of the Calendar Man as the main enemy, using some spores and stuff to, move the seasons around and like expedite them so that he can rebirth and everything, because he's basically aging throughout the seasons and getting rebirth in spring. And with that, that's kind of like what the story develops into, and nothing huge or big revelations here or new things. We get introduced to the new Thomas guy, who's going to be not a new Robin, but a new thing, Batman says, a new kind of person he's trying, and he has this nice bright yellow suit that we see. And you see him kind of like going on into battle, or into the action with Batman more on like a sideline kind of helping role. And this is not saying much about the Batman storyline right now. We don't really know anything how this is going to go down, other than now Batman has a new sidekick that's not going to be a Robin, but maybe a potential takeover of Batman's role. Who knows? Too early to say anything. If you're into Batman, I would say pick it up, just because it's the first issue. But if you don't really care too much about the Batman storyline, then it might be a pass on this one. But this could develop into something more interesting later on. And last, and certainly not least, we have Green Arrow. Green Arrow has to be easily the most action-packed of the stories I just read from the DC Rebirth series. And this one was really not emphasized much. Everyone was talking about the Batman, the Superman, and the Green Lantern. And I have to say, this might be my favorite of all of them. We get introduced immediately to Black Canary, who Green Arrow and her are new to each other. But immediately we get some action with them, fighting these new enemies called the Underground, which is this kind of organization of these zombie-looking people. It kind of look like the enemies from Uncharted 1, those zombie creatures. But yeah, it seems like they're this big kind of organization that's right now stealing homeless people and selling them on auctions and stuff like that. Kind of weird, but it seems like they're a pretty big kind of globally scaled villain with a big cool organization structure and really creepy looks, and there's a lot of them. That being said, this story kind of doesn't seem as maybe big in the DC universe as some of the other stories are trying to go. This one seems a lot more condensed, or not condensed, but a lot more local and within its own kind of relative area. But I have to say, it's probably one of the more interesting ones. Green Arrow is, as witty as he is, and Black Canary and their chemistry is right there. It was great seeing some cool action with them, finding some of these creatures. There's a few cool like little nods to Green Arrow shaving off his big musty kind of beard and kind of going back to his traditional little goatee. And yeah, the art style in this one is a little different, it's a little more cartoony, but I do like it, and it kind of fits the kind of tone they were setting. And definitely, I feel like this is one that people haven't really been talking about, but I think this could turn into an interesting storyline. And I say stick with Green Arrow, and definitely a pickup from if you want to go into this new Rebirth universe with a good storyline. And don't let this TV show kind of like sway your opinion of Green Arrow. Like, he's still cool, it's just that show ended pretty bad, I understand. With that being said, that's the end of my first week of comic book weekly roundup for the June 1st week till next Wednesday. This is my first time trying this out. I'm getting into comics again. I've always kind of I've always liked comics, but never been that deep into them. So hopefully, now that I'm starting off with Rebirth and maybe some of the other Marvel stories, and probably hopefully picking up some other series on different comic lines. We'll see how it goes. If there's other comics you think I should really be reading, and suggest them to me. I definitely want to get into more, and it could be a really fun hobby thing. And thanks for watching. If you watched it through, let me know what I can improve. Like I said, it's my first time doing these kind of reviews. Maybe I'm spoiling too much and maybe I'm not saying enough. Maybe I'm just talking too much, which I tend to do a lot, which I'm probably doing right now. But thanks for watching. And if you want more of these, if you're first time tuning in to me, think of subscribing. I have a lot of content on my channel, from games, movies, anime, and now comics. So stay tuned. Thanks so much.